What is sedimentary cycle and phosphorus cycle? Unlike carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen cycles, the phosphorus cycle is a sedimentary cycle. Microorganisms do not fix phosphorus in the same way that they do nitrogen. Almost all the phosphorus that enters the biosphere is taken up by plants' roots from the soil. The relatively limited pool of inorganic phosphorus that is available for use by organisms is a consequence of weathering of rocks containing phosphate minerals, primarily apatite. The majority of phosphorus taken by plants in most soils originates from organic molecules that break down and release phosphorus in plant-accessible inorganic forms. Mineralization is a process by which organic bound nutrients are released into plant-available forms. It is crucial for the release of sulfur, nitrogen, and phosphorus to the soil. Animals utilize phosphorus for ATP and NADP energy transfers, as well as for RNA and DNA as a structural component of membranes.
There are four key steps to the phosphorus cycle, which are weathering, absorption, decomposition, and finally sediments. First is weathering, where phosphorus can be found in rocks, and through weathering and rain, the phosphorus in these rocks now break down, traveling to soil and bodies of water. Next is absorption by the plants and animals. Once the phosphorus is in the soil, fungi, plants, and other microorganisms absorb the phosphorus. The plants absorb the water with the phosphorus while the animals eat the plants, thus transferring the phosphorus to the animals. Animals could also gain the phosphorus through the waters that the phosphorus may have gone through from the first step of weathering. Next is decomposition, or the return to the environment. Through the waste excreted by the animals, decomposers are able to use the phosphorus in the waste. Additionally, when animals die, the bacteria converts the organic phosphorus to inorganic phosphorus through what we call mineralization. And lastly, we have the sediments to the rocks. Some phosphorus gets buried in some settlements which eventually become rocks, thus making the cycle continue again. Furthermore, some phosphorus gets washed into the ocean where the same process can happen and the same cycle could also continue.
To utilize the phosphorus cycle, we must know the plants absorb the inorganic phosphate from the soil. Animals might then eat the plants. The phosphate gets integrated into organic molecules like DNA after it has reached the plant or animal. When an animal or plant dies, it remains decomposed, and turning the organic phosphate in agricultural soils. Adding organic matter reduces runoff and gives plant phosphorus. Utilizing non-phosphorus items like detergents and lawn fertilizers will help homeowners limit this phosphorus emission. To promote soil fertility and plant development, we also need to increase the amount of phosphorus available in the soil. Understanding the physiology of the many microorganisms engaged in the phosphorus cycle is aided by knowledge of its mechanism.
We all know that phosphorus plays a significant role in animals, so I'm going to talk about the effects of phosphorus on animals. First, it develops and maintains skeletal tissue, where the skeleton acts as a support and reservoir of calcium and phosphorus that can help during animal pregnancy, lactation, and laying of eggs. Second, it utilizes and transfers energy, especially for certain phosphates, such as ATP, also known as adenosine triphosphate. It is a universal collector of energy and primes the importance of muscular activity. Third, growth cell and differentiation. Phosphorus is a component of nucleic acids which carry genetic information and regulate protein biosynthesis and immunity. There are a lot of effects that phosphorus can do on animals, which is why I only tackled the important ones.
So I'll be talking about how phosphorus affects the human beings. Phosphorus works with calcium to help build bones, and it is important to have the right amount of both phosphorus and calcium for bone health. Phosphorus plays an important role in nucleic acid and cell membranes because it is involved in the body's energy production. Your body actually absorbs less phosphorus when calcium levels are too high and vice versa. And it is also important to note that one needs vitamin D to absorb phosphorus properly. Additionally, your kidneys help remove excess phosphorus from your blood, keeping your levels balanced. Your phosphorus levels can also get too high when one's kidneys aren't working as expected, and this can cause your calcium levels to rise.
The phosphorus cycle is lesser than the other major nutrient cycles and also has a considerable lack of phosphorus bunkers later restored, from which is only returned to active cycling after lengthy geologic epochs. Phosphorus is a is a nutrient of concern in most ecosystems due to its three causes. Initially, the weathering of randomly positioned rocks leaves only the trace amounts in the majority of soils. Secondly, because phosphorus is less adaptable and more insoluble than the other nutrients, it moves less through the soil solution. As a result, roots typically need to grow into an area where phosphorus is available. Lastly, oceanic species use the phosphorus that seeps from the land into the sea, but a sizable portion is lost due to its sediments in the shells and bones of marine organisms, precipitation, and phosphorus settling.
Alright, greetings everyone. Today I'll be discussing its effect on plants. Adding phosphorus promotes growth as acreage in farming grows. This is due to increase in root growth, speeds up maturity, and strengthens wind resistance. This makes it a very essential nutrient for both plants and animals, as insufficient phosphorus lowers crop yield, which is important in all agriculture. This affects the plants through photosynthesis, respiration, and transfer energy, for development and good time for growth and maturity. The cycle then repeats when plants and animals die and the organic phosphate returns to the ground.
Growing plants is significantly aided by the phosphorus cycle. The chemical element phosphorus is present on Earth in various complex forms, including the phosphate ion, which can be found in water, soil, and sediments. Plant growth is frequently restricted by the ordinarily low phosphorus levels in the ground. For this reason, phosphate fertilizers are commonly used on agricultural land. But why is it crucial to human existence? Well, as you may all know, phosphorus is necessary to synthesize DNA, cell membranes, and human bone and teeth. Given that it is one of three nutrients along with nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus that are used in commercial fertilizer, it is essential to produce food. Without phosphorus, muscle deterioration leads to lethargy, coma, and eventually death. The bones may deteriorate, which can cause discomfort and fractures. Thus, agricultural productivity can decline and be harmed in environments with the low and high levels of phosphate, making life miserable for all organisms. As human beings, we should remember what we can do, and that we will be without once they run out.